Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Today, we're playing Fel Seal. Which is a game that recently came out of early access. And recently came into my life. Because I did not know about it before this week. And it's basically it's a turn-based tactical RPG, much in the vein of Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Ogre, Disgaea, so on and so forth. And it's very good. It's very good. And I actually have been recording a Let's Play of it. Don't you know? I have like... Oh boy, I'll say 11 or no, 12 videos recorded so far for it. And so that's what I'll be showing after Metroid 2 is done. You know, me playing... I mean, I mentioned this in the LP, but this LP will be a good preview of the Final Fantasy Tactics Let's Plays, of which there's 3 of them. They're pretty similar as far as the style and my my habit of just continually going over different classes and stats and setups and things like that in the middle of the video, so on and so forth, which probably doesn't interest everybody, but maybe there's some out there. So it's a good game. I've been enjoying it, been playing a lot of it, and that's what you're going to be seeing. But let me tell you a story of utter stupidity, of just rampant, wanton stupidity. It's really only a singular stupid act with dire consequences. It's not much of a story, but it was stupid. This occurred pretty much right after Hanging with Mangg last week. It was like directly after it. I was getting up from my desk. My chair sort of spun around. Happened to knock into a bottle of Coke, which happened to be uncapped, which happened to tip over, and happened to pour directly into my computer. And it took me like a couple seconds to even realize what had happened. And then I realized, oh, you know, it spilled. That's pretty bad. You know, it could drip off of my desk into my computer. That was my first concern. Without thinking, oh no, my friend, it is pouring into your computer. It is not seeping onto your desk. It is as if I took a pitcher and just dumped it. And old school computers, you know, like old school crappy Dells and stuff like that, this wouldn't have really bothered anything because there was never any like fans on the top. It was always just pretty much you just had the fans on the back and that was good enough. But nowadays, obviously, we have much more than that. We need much more cooling. And so, you know, I knew immediately, of course, that this computer has to just get turned off. Unfortunately, you know, your thinking in moments of crises is not always as sharp as it needs to be. And so the first thing I did, stupidly, was go onto my computer and go to shutdown. I'm like, what? And I did that for like 2 seconds, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This is not the correct answer to this problem. So then, as my brain started to catch up, I was like, no, that's stupid. That's stupid, Mangg. What are you doing? So then my brain was like, okay, well, just hold down the power button. And I did that for a couple seconds before my brain caught up again. It was like, what the fuck are you doing? Yank that fucking cord, man. So finally, the cord was yanked. In the end, I actually don't think that my delayed problem solving there was actually that big of a deal. It's hard to say, obviously, but that's just maybe that's optimistic. But then began the process of pulling everything out, as in, like, you know, getting the tower out of there and sopping up everything. And which is just a mess. It's just liquid just fucking fucks. Especially soda. If ever there was a moment where I regret being a soda drinker, that's it. Water would have been a lot easier. But alas, that's life. And I didn't, at the time, I didn't like hear or smell or see anything like short circuit or fry or anything like that. So, you know, the liquid had gone through the fans, and obviously the fans were running, so I think that did not help. It sort of probably sent things flying everywhere. Then I think it went straight down and hit the top of my graphics card, which has like a metal plate on it, which helps. There was splatter on the motherboard, of course. There's no way you're going to prevent that. But it wasn't like it was poured onto the CPU or something like that. Then it dripped off the graphics card onto the way iBuyPower built this thing is that normally at the bottom you'd just have like the power supply you'd have things, it would all just sort of be open, but they have like this casing that went in the lower like third of the computer in the tower, and that covers the power supply and the hard drives and a bunch of cables. And so at the time I was like, okay, well that was good, because if that had all been open, it would just be everywhere. But I thought that it just sort of rolled off of that and went down into like the crack between that casing and the outer panel, and then it just seeped through a grate at the bottom, and it all just fell out. This was my stupid thought at the time. Really, the big problem was I had no idea how to remove this casing. I really had no idea. You know, iBuyPower constructed this thing. It was all very like tightly built, and I had no idea if I could remove this casing and take everything apart. I had no idea if I could put it back together. So, you know, I ran a fan on it for a couple days. I, you know, took paper towel to pretty much everything I could. And, you know, I had just cleaned up so much liquid underneath the computer at the time of the spilling. I had figured just most of it sort of ran through. Of course, as it turns out, this was a stupid thought. When a couple days had gone by, I thought, okay, it's as dry as it's gonna get. You know, there's always gonna be some sticky residue in places, but I hoped that wouldn't affect things. Again, there's just a lot of stupidity going around. So actually, during the course of those 2 days, when it was drying, I have a backup computer, but I was like, I don't want to set it up if I don't need to, if this is going to just end up working. I was optimistic. I was like, for a couple days, I'm just going to take a break from computers and just do some other stuff. So I got a lot of reading done on Salem's Lot, which was a great book. And I also took some time to play the Switch. And so I was in the Switch store, the e-store, or whatever the hell they call it. And I saw they have the Ace Attorney trilogy or something like that for $30. And I was like, Ace Attorney, you know, I've always heard about it. I sort of like courtroom stuff. Maybe I'd like this. It always seemed a little too anime for me, and I wasn't sure how like in depth it is as far as courtroom stuff goes, but maybe I'll like it. So I bought it, and I'm on like the 4th case of the first game, so I'm a good chunk of the way through. And I do like it. Except I know we pivoted drastically here, but my issue is it seems in a lot of cases almost like a visual novel rather than like an actual video game. Or to put it another way, it feels like I'm constantly in like the tutorial mode. You know, it just seems like there's always training wheels to like help you through the case. Not all the time, but it just like they never just like let you loose. It's like, good luck, asshole. You know, this is it. Because even if you fuck up pretty badly, there's still like, there's got to be something you can think of to solve this. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm stupid. And it's like, I know the fact that I the fact that I have fucked up, and I needed them to tell me, like, hey, maybe you should think about this more. I know that means that I'm not amazing at the game, but still, the main thing that sort of trips me up is the fact that I sort of expected this game to be based on our legal system, and it is not based on our legal system whatsoever. All these trials are like murder trials, and yet there's no jury. It seems every case is resolved by the judge when he just feels like it's solved. And so, I like courtroom stuff. I think in another lifetime, I probably could have been a lawyer. And so it's just like all these rules and, just the way like our courtrooms work, our juries work, our legal system works. That's all pretty much thrown out. Like the way you win cases in that game is basically like tricking the witness into confessing. That's pretty much how it works every time. And so I feel like how it should work is like there's a jury and, I'm just trying to create like reasonable doubt that, the defendant did it and somebody else could have done it. You're supposed to just be trying to convince a jury in these situations. You're not trying to really solve a crime per se. But they introduce all these sort of detective aspects where the lawyer is actually like going to crime scenes and stuff like that and like poking around evidence and interviewing people, and it's like this seems kind of questionable. I feel like the prosecution, like in every case, could just slam us with witness tampering pretty much like every time. But that never happens. I feel like I'm taking the games more seriously than they are meant to be taken. That's basically my problem. I like them, but it sort of frustrates me when it was like, I want to be the one shouting objection all the time at some of the bullshit, but Phoenix Wright, he almost never shouts objection. So I don't know. Maybe the future games in the series, things get more involved and more serious. I don't know. I've only played, a good chunk of the first game. So I like the concept, and I wish there was like some really good like courtroom games, but maybe that's boring to a lot of people. But I mean, this series is pretty popular, so I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it's more meant to be just sort of like a visual novel puzzle game than like a lawyer game. But I digress. So anyways, that's part of what I spent my couple days doing. And so 2 days go by. I'm like, okay, this is the moment of truth. I plug the computer in. I plug the power in. And a few lights pop up immediately before I even hit the power button. I'm like, okay, that's a good sign. Something's still working. I hit the power button and nothing happens. I'm like, well, that's bad. Then I unplug everything again, plug it back in, wait 15 seconds, hit the power button, and everything boots up. And everything starts running. I'm like, well, that's good. But then nothing appears on the monitors or the monitor, and I'm like, well, that's bad. I try it all again, still nothing. I'm like, wow, that's bad. I try taking out the graphics card completely. Maybe that got fried or something. And I just try going through just the onboard video, and still nothing. I'm like, wow, that's pretty bad. I'm not sure what the problem is now. And so I'm like, okay, maybe my brother will want to take a look at this or something. I'm not sure what to do with it exactly. I mean, mentally, basically, I'm prepared. Not right now, but at some point within like a year, I plan to just buy another computer. It's a tax write-off, thankfully, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, mentally, I'm just prepared for that. But I figure maybe my brother will want to look at it. Maybe he can get it going. I don't know. I figure I just made like a really a $3,800 stupid mistake. Shit happens. I'm not like crying. It's not, for me, it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's a problem that money can fix. Unfortunately, I have some money. You know, some people have to bury their kids, so it's all in perspective. So I took my backup computer, which is a computer that my previous computer that I had basically pretty much given to my dad, but I gave it to him like 3 months ago, and he had never set it up, despite me being, despite me reminding him. He's like, yeah, you've got an awesome computer sitting there, and he's just never set it up. I think he's just hoping I'll set it up for him. But it was still sitting there, freshly reformatted and everything. So I'm like, okay, well, luckily I have a backup computer. So I set that back up. And that's what you're looking at now. So this is just my old computer, which is still a pretty damn good computer. It's got a 1080 Ti in there and stuff. But I was like, fortunately, most of my data, such as like all my Final Fantasy videos and the Metro, like all those LPs, were on an external hard drive, so that was not affected at all, which is good. That's smart. That's using your brain. But there was a storage hard drive in the other computer, my new computer, where I had all of the only thing I cared about was all of the artwork that I've been using for SCP videos, which at that point, that's a big fucking folder. There's a lot of stuff in there, and I generally reuse a lot of that with every video because I'm lazy. I was like, okay, I could live without it if it was lost, but I'd really like to have it. So I went into the soda computer, and the hard drives were in that casing at the bottom that I wasn't sure how to get open. I figured out how to like go in through the other side and do some unscrewing and pulled out this little hard drive enclosure where the hard drives were, discovering that it was pretty much covered in Coke, which brought me to the realization that this casing did protect nothing. Nothing was protected. And so then I thought, okay, the power supply is probably drenched and has enough power to like cause the lights and the fans to come on, and that's basically it. This was basically my thought. So at this point, my brother had agreed to take a look at the computer, try and get it working. And so I'm like, well, you should try replacing the power supply first, see if that works. So we'll see what comes of that. But I did manage to grab the storage hard drive, cleaned some Coke off of it, which I don't even know how soda got on that fucking thing, but it did. And I plugged that in to my backup, and it works just fine. No problems, so that was good. So luckily, the only things that were really lost was money. But that's okay. So that was my stupid story. I mean, shit happens. I'm hardly the first person to dump liquid on a computer. It definitely will make you more cautious in the future, though. Let's see. Yeah. So then this week on the Exploring series, we had the unfinished ritual. Which was sort of a pretty big video for me, since it was my sponsored video, and it ended up performing as well as I could have hoped for. I think it's sitting on like 130,000 views right now, which is pretty decent. Nothing mind-blowing, but pretty decent. You dumping liquid on your old PC is actually partly the reason you met your girlfriend. Well, I don't think that's going to happen to me, but good for you. I wish there was really a silver lining to my story, but I guess the only silver lining is I discovered Ace Attorney, which isn't not really a great silver lining. Where was I? Right, so the sponsorship, yeah. They just sent over the contract for me to sign like 3 days ago or 2 days ago. I actually, I'm gonna mention part of this contract here. Just because I don't understand it, and I don't know if anyone watching this would understand it. I mean, I already signed it because it's like, what the fuck am I gonna do? It's not like I don't know, it's just weird. So the contract mentions the campaign components, which is basically, my part of the whole deal. The format for the campaign is a video. It says the post date was April 22nd, which is, of course, not when this video was posted. April 22nd is when I first sent them the first draft of the ad. They hadn't even, like, fully approved it yet. So I don't know what they mean by that. It says the show name, the Exploring series, and it's really funny to see the Exploring series all over like this legal contract. The Exploring series will take all reasonable steps to ensure the content in the videos do not infringe on third-party intellectual property rights. It's just funny that this random name I came up with a few years ago is on legal contracts. Scripted, it says non-scripted, so it's non-scripted, it's host read, so that means it was read by the host, which is me. Personal experience, yes, so I guess they have to mark whether or not I included a personal experience, which I guess I did. Then it says type evergreen. I don't know what that means, if anyone knows what that means. But here's the thing that I just don't understand. It says gross rate $23,529.41. I don't know. Then it says price type CPM. And then net due, it says $20,000. Now, I'm pretty sure they're not paying me $20,000. I'll tell you that much. That was not the agreed upon amount. So I don't know where these numbers are coming from. I don't know why they're on a contract. I don't know anything about it. I just don't get it. My video is not worth $20,000, so I have no idea. I just don't get it. You know, like I said, I signed the contract, so I'm not going to change anything. No, if it had said like net due $30, I probably would have asked some questions before I signed. But this way, you know, I figure they're going to pay me what we had agreed upon. If they want to pay me $20,000, okay. But I don't know. It just sort of confused me. I don't know anything about. After all that talk about courtrooms and stuff, legal contracts, I have no idea. But regardless, I signed it. So we'll see what comes of that. I wish I could sort of know how well the ad performed, like how many people signed up for it and things like that. I honestly, I can't imagine my audience. Because I just feel like my audience now with SCP skews younger. So I don't know. I'm just kind of surprised they actually came to me. And not like the Volgan. I don't think the Volgan's done an ad. And I mean, he's got more subscribers than I do. I don't know if I might, for an average video, I might perform better than him. That might be why. But anyways, it's all done. It's all done and done. I don't know if No. I worked on a video on Dr. Clef this week, another doctor. Now, I didn't really know much about Dr. Clef before working on this video. I knew about the thing where it's like his face can't be photographed. I knew that. And I knew there was something about him being like... There was something about him being like a reality anchor, or he couldn't be affected by anomalies or something like... Something weird, something like that. My difficulty with the video was I think my SCP videos, actually pretty much any video that I do, tends to be better if I can sort of create a narrative. If I can create a story out of the subject. And I don't know if this is globally true, or, you know, I don't know if this is true for everybody watching my videos, but I personally find my videos are better if there is like a clear story. And most of my favorite videos that I've done consist of like a good story. Like the Baron and Luthien is one of my favorite videos I've ever done. And The Sons of Tyrion is one of my favorite videos I've done, because I just find that they had a really good story, a really interesting story from start to finish throughout the video. You know, I do videos sometimes where it's like a compilation of a bunch of different shit, and none of them, even if they might contain a good story, I never devote enough time in those compilation videos for them to really showcase that story. So those are never as good, I think. The issue with Dr. Clef was there's so many tales, there's so many different approaches, there's so many different aspects and takes on his character and things like that, that I just wasn't sure really where to begin. I wasn't sure what to mention, because there's so many things I could have mentioned. And so I decided, I was like, okay, how can I take all these different aspects of this character? How can I create a story? And so I think in the end, that's what I did. I created a coherent story where pretty much each element of that video, as I jump around, they're all connected to one another. So like I start with the fact that he used to work for the GOC. Okay, and so that, you know, there's like a GOC personnel file for him, for Agent Ukulele. And I was like, okay, this is a good starting point. Like his background as like a talented field agent for the GOC. Good. Then that personnel file mentions the Cornwall incident, where he kills this goddess, but he doesn't kill the daughter. It's like, okay, great. That allows me to talk about the Cornwall incident and then move into SCP-166, who is his daughter. And so then I can talk about that. And then that article, 166, ends with a link to another article about his suicide note, which actually was not written by Dr. Clef, the author. It was written by somebody else, but I like it so much that I used it as sort of a ground point for this story. So then, you know, I got to talk about the suicide note. And the suicide note mentions the incident with SCP-239. And then, okay, I get to talk about SCP-239. And then I get to talk about Incident 239B, which is like one of the most notable things with Dr. Clef. And then after I finish talking about all that, I can bring it back to the suicide note and sort of finish off there. And so I've sort of created this narrative, which hopefully paints a picture of Dr. Clef. Not the total picture, because that would be pretty much impossible and would be ridiculous. But it paints a picture of him. And that's pretty much the best I can do. So, in the end, I think the video is decent. We'll see what people think of it. You know, I actually compare it quite a bit to Dr. Bright. The videos. I think there are people that are going to expect this sort of crazy, wild, sort of sadistic side of Clef. And I don't really present that. I present a much more serious picture of him. Much like I did with Dr. Bright. So we'll see. I'm pretty happy with it, but you never know. Yeah. And then I'm also working on a 40K video for the Tau, who are a very unique species in 40k. For a couple different reasons. One is sort of their overall philosophy and the greater good, and their willingness to work with other species as far as like bringing in other species into their empire, which is pretty different. And the fact that they are not really a fantasy species in space, which is the case for many other things. They are very deliberately meant to be just straight science fiction. Specifically, like, Japanese science fiction. So they have, like, the mechs and, well, I mean, everybody's got mechs, but it's very Japanese styled with their whole culture. So we'll see how that goes. This week on this channel, we of course had Final Fantasy 15, which has 2 or 3 more videos. I think 3. So we're gonna finish that this coming week, and then we just get to wrap up Final Fantasy 3, which will be a blast from the past at this point. And then we have 1 more video on Metroid 2. And then after Metroid 2 will be this game, Fel Seal, which doesn't really look that new, but it is a new game, so that's good. I think that's pretty much it for that. So board games. Did I talk about this last week? I might have talked about this last week. Yeah, I think I did talk about backing Bloodborne, the board game, on Kickstarter. Yeah, I did. I remember talking about it. It's made quite a bit of money. Let me find out what it's at. At this second, it is at $2.65 million pledged with 9 days to go. 21,000 backers. And I'm going all in. I mean, this is probably pretty stupid of me, but I figure it's fucking Bloodborne, man. I'm going all in. So they've introduced a number of optional buys, which are basically each as expensive as a new board game. So that's nice. This is how they rake in the cash. But okay, so for the base game, the base pledge, there's really only one tier. You get the core box. You get the Kickstarter exclusive Kirkhammer Hunter. So this is Kickstarter, so it's the Kirkhammer, which is like, I think the Kirkhammer is probably like my favorite weapon in all the video games. Probably. I mean, I don't know if anything else stands out to me. So, you got to get that. Then you get 4 other hunters. You get 28 monsters. And these are all the basic stuff like the hunters, beast patients, the big guys with the bricks, church servants, scourge beasts, church giants. You get 5 bosses. You get Vicar Amelia, of course. Cleric Beast, of course. And then they sort of cheat, to be honest, because they give you Father Gascoigne and then Father Gascoigne transformed. That's really one boss, but all right. And then you get Blood-Starved Beast. So you basically get a bunch of early bosses. Then you get 20 tiles. So it's another tile-based game where you sort of lay down tiles and move through them with your hunters, as to be expected. You get a bunch of other stuff. Item cards, upgrade cards, chapter cards, enemy AI cards, tokens, and so on and so forth. Now, then they've had all these fucking stretch goals. Like, there's so many. There's so many. You get so much shit. Okay, so the first thing, like, that was guaranteed to come out was the Chalice Dungeon rules. So, they've already came up with all these rules. They know they were going to hit this. So you get 6 Chalice Dungeon tiles, 7 Chalice Dungeon enemy action cards, and the rules. So I'm not a big fan of Chalice Dungeons in Bloodborne, so I don't know how they're doing it in the board game. But I would assume it's just sort of like randomly generated like scenarios. That's basically what I'm assuming. Then they have Gravekeeper Scorpions, which I'm not even familiar. I don't even know if I've ever fought one, because I think that's Chalice Dungeon only. Then they got another boss, the Beast Possessed Soul, which is fine. I think that's also Chalice Dungeon only. Then 4 Bell Ringers. Okay. 4 Labyrinth Rats. I think that's Chalice Dungeon only. Is it? Oh, God, I remember. I think so. Then the Undead Giant Boss, which... if it's a boss, that must be Chalice Dungeon only. Rabid Dogs. So, thank God you get some dogs. Then 6 more Chalice Dungeon tiles. Then the Loran Silver Beasts. So those are cool. Then you get 4 sculpted chests. Okay, whatever. Then you get a Beast Claw Hunter. I'm not a big fan of the Beast Claw, but all right, fine. Somebody can use that. Then we have 4 Nightmare Apostles, as well as the large Nightmare Apostle, which counts as a boss. So those are the big spiders. The Rifle Spear Hunter. I like the Rifle Spear. Then you get Yarnum, Thumerian Queen, which is a Chalice Dungeon only boss. I'm referring to the game when I talk about this. So that's a boss I've never fought, even though Bloodborne's like maybe my favorite game. I wish sort of I could just like enter a code and just be thrown into... I just don't like Chalice Dungeon. I don't want to do all that shit. Then the Ludwig's Uncanny Holy Blade Hunter. So that's necessary. These are playable characters when I talk about hunters. 5 Sculpted Lamps. Whoa, I'm glad we hit that stretch goal. The Blade of Mercy Hunter. That would probably be secondary for me behind Kirkhammer. So I'm glad we got that. 4 Large Huntsmen. 4 Giant Lost Child. That's interesting. They jumped from 4 Large Huntsmen to 4 Giant Lost Child. Then we unlocked the first optional buy, which is the... Actually, no, this was not an optional buy. Let me double check. Let me double check. I think this was not. I don't believe so. No, this one was not an optional buy. This one was just included with everyone's tier for free, which was pretty nice. This is the Murgo's Loft campaign. So this is like another whole box that contains the whole Murgo's Loft area, as well as... It's sort of weird because you would assume that Murgo's Wet Nurse would be in that box. But we actually didn't unlock Murgo's Wet Nurse until we hit 227,000. No, that would be 2.27 million. Yeah. 2.27 million. Whereas we unlocked the campaign at 1.85 million. So I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, you get Murgo's Loft campaign with its own tiles and stuff. You get Murgo's Chief Attendants, you get Murgo's Attendants, and you get Murgo's Wet Nurse. So that's all good. That's all. I mean, the miniature for Murgo's Wet Nurse looks fucking awesome, as you would imagine. Then we unlocked PvP mode as like a separate play style. You can fight each other. I don't know if that appeals to me at all, but okay. And then we got the Chikage Hunter, which is cool. Chikage. Then we got 4 hunting dogs. So these are the dogs with like the bones in their mouth, you know, the bone knife or whatever in their mouth. And then I think, yeah, we're probably going to unlock the next tier as well, or the next thing, which is 4 Keepers of the Old Lords. Which, that sounds like a Chalice Dungeon thing. I don't know if I remember those. Yeah, that's a Chalice Dungeon thing. So, that's fine. That's whatever. But the optional buys then that we got. First was Yahargul Unseen Village. So this was 8 enemies, a boss, 1 double-sided tile, and 67 cards, all related to Yahargul, which is fine. I think the enemies included with that are... oh, here, I can just tell you. I don't have to guess. It's 4 of the Kidnappers and 4 of the Cramped Caskets. And then the 1 Reborn is the boss. So that's good. Gotta have the Kidnappers. Then the next optional buy was Bergenworth, which is awesome. You get 4 of the Scholars, which are like the goopy men. You get 4 Garden of Eyes, which are like the buggy Migo things. You get 4 Rom's Children, and then you get Rom the Vacuous Spider. And how can you have a Bloodborne game without Rom? So we had to have that. Then we got Forsaken Canehurst Castle, which comes with 4 of Cain's servants, which are the women with the daggers, I think. Or maybe I'm mistaken. You get 4 blood lickers. Those are the nasty spider pregnant things. You get 4 Forsaken Castle spirits. And 4 Lost Child of Antiquity. It's basically... And 2 Vile Blood Knights. So it's basically like every enemy in Canehurst. But then you also get Vile Blood Queen Annalise, which is wild. Because I don't know if they meant that to be like a enemy or... I don't know. She's got her own miniature where she's sitting on her throne. I don't know why they included this. But yeah, I mean, the main boss is, of course, Martyr Logarius, which he looks pretty badass. And it also comes with the Rider Palash Hunter. So that optional buy was a little bit more expensive. The other 2 are 40. Canehurst Castle is 60. So when I said I went all in, I went all in. So I'm in for $240 right now. But my God, you get a fuck ton of miniatures. I wonder how much it would cost for someone to paint all of these miniatures. That would have to be like a couple grand, right? So anyways, yeah, they're making some money. They're making some cash on that whole project. That guy in the corner looks like Snake. Yeah, that... like a discount Snake. I think I called him like discount like Adrian Brody Rambo. Yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping the game is good, but even if not, just having all those miniatures is going to be awesome. Last thing to talk about, I guess, then is role-magging. We started Tatters of the King this week, which meant, of course, after that disastrous incident in Scotland, we had to do character creation. So for character creation, I really had no clear idea in mind with what I wanted to play, because you never know. You never know how the stats are going to roll. It's not really a bright idea to have a character concept in mind before then, because things are probably not going to work out the way you plan. So I started out with, I got 14 strength, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Then I got 14 constitution. I was like, that's pretty good. Then I got 16 appearance, and I was like, oh my god, I'm really like a physical specimen here. This is pretty good. And so we started joking about being like, because Ziggy had told us that it wasn't absolutely required, but it would be very good if we had one player as like a psychiatrist and somebody else as like an artist of some type. And so I was joking, like my art could just be my body. I'm like a bodybuilder. And so we were like, okay, if you roll an 18, if you roll an 18 on your size, you gotta be a bodybuilder. And I was like, all right, what are the odds that I roll, you know? But sure enough, I rolled 3 6s for appearance. And thus I am a bodybuilder, which is a questionable character choice in Call of Cthulhu, but here we are. Then I also ended up getting like a 14 intelligence and like a 13 education. Like a 7 dexterity, which was not great. But the real kicker, the real shit note, was getting a 6 power. Because Ziggy was like, okay, if you roll 5 or less on your power, you can re-roll it. Because he's, you know, that was too cruel. So of course I had to roll a 6. There were a lot of highs and lows during that character creation. So I have a character that, for the most part, is really good. Like, I could have been anything and I would have been pretty damn good at it. But since I had that 18 size, 16 appearance, 14 strength, I had to go with a bodybuilder. He's not, he's more of like a, there's a term, I can't remember what the term is for someone that focuses more on like looking really built rather than like actually like bench pressing and stuff like that. Is it like a body sculptor or something like that? I don't know. That's probably more what he is. But the 6 power is really bad and means that he will not last long. The reason for that, if you're unaware, is that power in Call of Cthulhu determines your maximum sanity. So low power means that you will not be very sane. And in Call of Cthulhu, having a low sanity means that you take more sanity damage, and thus your sanity gets lower and lower, and then you go insane very quickly. So it's a very slippery slope. You know, if you start with an insanely high sanity, you can hold out for quite a long time. And, you know, sanity is not really an issue for you. It's more just dying. So we decided, Thomas decided to be a psychiatrist because we needed one. And I was like, well, you're probably my psychiatrist because I need one, clearly. And so then we decided, why doesn't he just be my dad? Because I went with age 19, which was the youngest that I could be. And he went with like 40s or 50s or something like that. Like, okay, he's gonna be my dad. And then, of course, Studs had to get in on that as well, with being my brother. And it became sort of funny because it's like my dad, Thomas's character, is also like really big. I think his character has high size as well. So we were like, we decided to be the Gaines family because we're all just big. But it's really only two of us because Studs, I think his size is like 9 or maybe it was 12 or so. It was not impressive. So he's like the bastard child of the family that I don't respect at all. So I decided to name my character Big Gaines. Big is short for Bigelow. And Thomas was Dr. Hugh Gaines. And Studs was Morgan Gaines or More Gaines. That's how we settled things. There's only 3 of us. You know, hopefully Mert pops up and can be Little Gaines or something like that. So Tatters of the King, the first session or so, I have read myself and I have also played elsewhere. So I'm pretty familiar with the opening, with the actual play itself and the chaos that breaks out. That wasn't like a big surprise for me. And then following up the play with the visit to the asylum and blah, blah, blah. I was familiar with all that. So this session that we did was not like, wow, this is crazy, what's happening? But, you know, we sat through the play. Chaos breaks out at the end of it once everyone sees the yellow sign. And, you know, some people go into this berserker rage, and so Big Gaines backhanded some old man into the next world, and that felt pretty good. Then, you know, Thomas's character gets a letter from some psychiatrist who wants him to come and check out his patient and blah, blah, blah. And so we take this visit to this asylum. Actually, after the play, we had this like dinner with all the cast and stuff. And I just drank a bunch. And the director of the play comes out and talks to us and blah, blah, blah. And I have him... I liked the yellow sign. I thought it was cool. And so I'm thinking about getting a tattoo of it. And so I had the director of the play like draw the sign on a napkin. Which of course I kept. And so when we went to the asylum later, I started showing it to everyone. Like, what do you think of this? Because, you know, the yellow sign just... It doesn't make you go insane upon seeing it. You might lose some sanity, and you're not sure why. And obviously it can open up influence to Haster, so it's not a good thing. But... people become very obsessive about it. And so I figure, okay, Big likes it. He doesn't know why he likes the shape of it, but he likes it. And he's going to show it to people, see what they think, because he's thinking about getting a tattoo. And so, of course, we're dealing with all these characters that have gone insane due to Haster's influence and stuff. And so just showing them the yellow sign, they, like, recoil from it. But they can't explain why, for whatever reason. So Big is sort of mystified. Like, why don't you like this? What's wrong with this sign? Thinking about getting a tattoo. Damn it. So yeah, we poked around the asylum, we asked some questions. Gosh, I don't remember. You know, this guy is in this asylum because he confessed to killing someone. His father, his sibling, somebody. Someone in his family, I don't even remember. Sorry. So he confessed to doing it, but he was never charged with a crime. And the doctor thinks he's probably ready to leave, but his family and the family's physician is insisting that he stays in the asylum for whatever reason. And so he called us in to sort of check him out and see why, if at all, the family would want to think this. And so we can't really deduce anything just from talking to the guy, because he's mostly... he doesn't talk much. But there's definitely something fishy going on with the family and with some police records, things like that. There's something fishy going on. There's another patient that is also wanted for murder of someone in the asylum, but you know, there's all this fishy nonsense going on. And so we finished at the asylum. That's where we ended, and I think we're probably gonna go check out the police station next, because they have, you know, reports about this guy's murder and confession and things like that. And so we're diving into this mystery. So, you know, playing this Big character, I know he's gonna last long. I don't want to like derail the campaign with just stupid bodybuilding antics or anything like that. He does have like a 14 intelligence. He's not a stupid guy. So I'm trying to walk this fine line. But I do want to keep pushing the mystery forward. I do want to play it somewhat properly. Because now, from now on, this Tatters of the King, it's all new to me. And so I'm actually really excited to see where this campaign actually goes from here. And how many people I can show the yellow sign to before I die. Or before I go insane. So yeah, I think we're picking that back up on Tuesday, and that should be pretty good. Guess that's about it. Not much else to say. So check out the Dr. Clef video tomorrow. The Tau video later this week. Got the rest of Final Fantasy 15 and the ending of Metroid 2, as well as the start of Fel Seal this week. I mean, this, if you watch this Hanging with Mangg and you like this gameplay, you'll probably like the LP. That's mostly what it is. Yeah, should be all good. So my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. See you fine folks next week.